Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host and keeper of the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions DrFunctional,
Jazz hands,
Serenity Star 13,
Hello.
Prospero,
Hello.
and SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
It's been
For leading off with me.
it's been quite the week here in California. Now it's warmer and Pineapple Expressy, and
Yeah.
stuff's just starting to be underwater again. It's gonna be interesting.
Do you not have web toes yet?
Well, things started off with, in Central California, the city of Watsonville, not a rich community, a very much an ag community where a lot of strawberries come from, close-ish to the ocean. Strawberries, artichokes, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Pajaro River breached its levee. They were afraid it was just going to just flood, just because, but it breached its levee, and oh god, there's like water everywhere.
Not a drop to drink.
All the boards did shrink. Yeah, that's
Just-
a shame.
I saw a
Bring
video.
blender and make some margaritas.
Well, you'll like this functional. I saw a video of this guy who just reached down onto the street where the flooding was and picked up a fish. That's fresh. You don't
Sounds
usually
like-
go noodling on the street where you
Sounds like
live.
something a West Virginian would do. Walk out Ohio River, just go. Oh, there's one. All
Dur,
right.
dur, dur.
You know,
My granddaddy did that with a snapping turtle once. It was a little terrifying.
Yeah.
It's funny because up at the farm I used to work at when I was a younger man, there was a pretty beautiful, gorgeous waterfall, probably about 20 feet high. And we were swimming around in the hole in the bottom. And I went, through the waterfall. All of a sudden, thunk, something hits me in the head. A fish just went down the waterfall and slapped me in the head. I got fish slapped.
Nice.
We had no idea what the hell was going on until my friend, the son of the farm owner, was like, "Oh, you just got hit in the head with a fish." It was hilarious. I just saw it all. It's like, oh, okay.
That is
And this was before everything was just on video all the time.
Yeah.
That's a sign of good fortune. Much like a pigeon pooping on you in Italy. It's a sign of good fortune.
Well, let's see. In terms, he who is last shall go first. Skep, anything you want to share with us before we start?
No, everything's fine. No ripples in the banking and finance industry in the United States. We're all good.
I was afraid we were going to have to talk about that later. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
How about
we're
you,
fine.
Prospero?
Just fine, thank you.
You're
How are you?
surviving okay? You're surviving and thriving, or
Yeah, we're
whatever the kids
kind
say
of-
these days.
Winterish weather decided to show up in March,
hmm
which is offensive.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I know we're trying to not swear, for Susan or Susan-like people to go after us, especially in the first 10 minutes. But it is, we do spring forward tomorrow, don't we?
Creatures
Well,
of
technically
object class,
tonight.
Susan.
But yes,
Yes, we do.
like Prospero and I will literally at like 2:00 in the morning our time just.
Repeat an hour. No, we will be at 3.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just-
you all are still on your regular.
Yeah.
Wait, repeating or we're going
No,
ahead?
we're going.
We're
springing
spring
forward.
forward.
Oh, so we're losing it now.
Spring forward.
I
Steps,
never-
stagger back.
Yeah.
Yeah, spring forward, fall back.
Yep.
So yeah, basically when 2:00 rolls around, it magically becomes 3 a.m.
Yep.
I've already changed my clocks. I'm so
I
impressed.
usually do the same thing. I just do it the night before.
do it
It's
the
like-
night before. It's so easy.
I'm a terrible person. I don't change any of my clocks because they're all through the internet, so they change on their own.
Yeah, really.
No, you're a smart person. That's what you are.
Well, initially, on my stupid motorcycles, they would have like a clock, and I would change it when daylight savings time would come around. And I quickly came to realize that the last thing in the world you want to know when you're on two wheels is what time it is.
Yeah, really.
Right.
If you're looking down to see what time it is, you're in
No,
traffic.
no, that's not it. That's not it. The point I'm clumsily trying to make is the time is what the time is. If
Right.
you're running late, nothing
Right.
you can do about it. It should
Yeah.
it should not change your behavior on a bike one little bit. Your behavior should be, this is how I get where I need to go, in a timely and safe manner. Full stop. If you're running late, that doesn't That should have
Right.
no effect on things. So
It should be
I
Schrodinger's
realized,
clock. Yeah.
I just realized that I don't care. I mean, the clock on the bike is random.
Yep.
I intentionally don't know what the offset is or anything else, because the last thing I want to know when I'm on a bike is what time it is.
Yep.
Yeah, Schrodinger's clock. You don't look
It just leads.
It
It
might
just
be, it
leads
might
to
not be.
poor decision making.
entirely. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. I think I did call on you, right, Serenity?
No, you
No. Okay. Hi, Serenity. Anything you want to share?
I
So
survived the
professional.
wind. I survived the windstorm. We're going to get the cold snap that Prospero was talking about, and we're supposed to get snow and rain like 2 days in a row. So pray to God the backup generator that's supposed to get here gets here in time, because I have a feeling, considering our fuck up of a power company, it's going to make the power go out again, and then I'm going to kill people.
Yeah. No kidding.
Ding!
We made it
Harry's-
7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Hey.
Harry's bet from last week paid off.
Yeah. Exactly. Hi, functional.
Hi. I've got to eat crow. Skep.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
not-
Last week, I
not
kind of.
possible.
It's possible. I know it happens sometimes. I let off the show by saying, you know what? The card wasn't that bad. And sometimes I might be a little too optimistic for my own good when it comes to these things. And I kept on hope. And then they shat all over my face with this last episode. And I'm like, I'm done. Forget it.
They
You
hurt
had
you,
such a
didn't they?
great setup. They built it up and they had a great setup, and then they did nothing with it, and it made me so angry because it could have been such a great revival. They
Something.
had such
Yeah.
a good plan.
What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Picard season
Picard.
3.
Oh, okay. I just heard card.
The
and I
first,
was like, what?
the first. Okay, so what? Not to go too much into it, but they're basically taking an episode of TNG and spreading it out over like 4 episodes, and it doesn't work because it's it's like Bilbo said. I feel like too little butter spread across too much bread, and it just doesn't work. And I'm eating crow now because I was like, you know what? No, I'm done. It's no.
I have a question. What was that episode? The Naked Now?
Naked now.
Episode 2, season 1.
Oh,
Data's fully functional. The Naked Now.
fully functional.
Yeah. No. Okay.
No.
Not one of
I
not
respect
one
Denise
of
Crosby too much.
not one of TNG's funner moments, honestly, until it all started to go very pear-shaped. When they had ghosts making fog on the bridge of the Enterprise somewhere in season 7, that Dr. Crusher episode. Ugh.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Man,
Yes.
the ghost.
The episode of Abomination, the supernatural one. God,
It was all kinds of not good.
It was not a perfect series, but I mean, when
Or
it was
any-
good, it was great. When it
or
was
any
awful, it was
Yep,
episode-
just
yep. You're right.
Or any episode involving Wesley.
Yeah, I was surprised every now and then they'd even have a Majel Barrett episode that wasn't so bad. The one with her and was it Kelsey Grammer? I actually thought that was a surprisingly good episode because
You
they
mean
could have
Brendan
just.
Ogden Stiers?
Oh, was it David Ogden Stiers?
David Ogden Stiers,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, David
the
Ogden
mash
Stiers.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was one of my favorite episodes. Of
that was
hers.
actually a really good episode.
I like
But that's not what this show is about. As much as I would like it to be about that, it's not what this show is about. Let's see.
What is this show about tonight, Harry?
I don't know. Stuff and things. We should
Yeah.
probably start
Yeah.
talking
Hate
about
things.
some of what we've got planned, though.
stuff is okay. Hate
Let's
things.
find the correct window. Window. Where's my stupid window? Okay.
While we're waiting, don't forget to drop a like on the stream. It really helps us out. Get some traction in
It
the
actually
algorithm.
really does.
I mean,
even
thumbs
if-
up,
even
thumbs
if-
down. Doesn't
Like,
matter. They're
share,
both
and
interaction.
subscribe.
You don't have to
They
like us. You just have to like us. All right. So
Engage with us.
this stumbled across my desk, which is the Peter Buttigieg principle. So maybe this isn't something that they talk about much these days, but it wasn't that long ago when there was this thing that surfaced called the Peter principle. Now, the Peter principle basically says that if you have a person in an organization and they do a good job, they will just get promoted. And they will keep getting promoted until they finally reach a point where they do a terrible job. And then they will no longer be promoted, thereby turning an organization into a place where nothing actually gets done except for the new people working their way up to their level of incompetence.
Yeah.
And,
You know,
and so,
Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, the thing about Buttigieg is, I know this article's trying to draw the conclusion because, you know, he's Pete Buttigieg and the Peter Principle and all that sort of stuff. And it's anybody who's known people in like the government or a big company has seen this happen a bunch of times.
Yes.
Where you see somebody who's not really particularly good at stuff, but they've just stuck around so long that eventually they just sort of get promoted to their level of incompetence. Even if somebody has a clue, but Pete Buttigieg, in my opinion, is failing upwards, which is like the next level.
This is my point. I've heard people talk about, you know, the Peter Principle, you know, and even Parkinson's law with respect to Buttigieg. But he's doing something a little bit different, and it's even worse than the Peter Principle. In the Peter Principle, people do a good job, you know, and they get promoted, and then they're in charge of a bunch of people. Maybe they're not as good as being in charge of a bunch of people, but there's still enough technical stuff in it, you know, where they're not good managers, but they still get the job done, and so they you know. They're just hard chargers, so they get promoted to the next thing until they become incompetent. Then that's where they stick. Now, that was a very cynical point of view by Lawrence Peter, you know, many years ago, observing the industrial processes of the 1950s and 60s. But here's what Buttigieg is doing. He's doing something different. Second order Peter Principle. He not only crashes through his level of incompetence. He smashed that ceiling a long time ago. He is in towering heights above what his level of competence is. I doubt that Pete Buttigieg would be able to do much more than maybe work in a call center, you know, fielding simple calls. Truly, in terms of what he's capable of doing, he sounds well spoken and everything, but actually he's just a trained house cat. He is not a very smart man, but because of his manner and his immutable characteristic, since gayness is an immutable characteristic, and his relentless pursuit of rights for himself, he's the guy who's in the right place at exactly the right time, and that's how he has risen to this thing. But this thing, his position now is far above his level of competence. He could not run any of the departments he's in charge of. He could not run one of them, guaranteed. I'm sorry, I'm soapbox.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, I know that Prosper is probably anxious to comment on this.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, don't worry about that. That ship has sailed. But I wanted to ask, before we got too far down the line, Functional, is there somebody in your government that you think is a good analog for Pete Buttigieg?
Who could that be?
I think it's interesting because I wanted to say, like, I think both of our governments, you know, from the very top, are embodying this principle of Peter, of failing upwards. I mean, coming back to obviously Trudeau and his cabinet is full of complete diversity hires. I have to keep reminding people of Mr. Trudeau, why is it that your cabinet is predominantly women? Because it's 2015. Like, you know, it's a non-answer. It's just a bunch of check boxes he had. Oh, okay, we got a minority here, we got diversity here, we got women here, and the same thing has happened with the Biden administration. He literally got the highest office in the land by failing, by not leaving his freaking basement. So, I mean, I don't blame Buttigieg, but it's leading by example. They failed upwards. Him and Kamala failed upwards their entire career, and so they appoint people like them. It's in-group preference.
Yeah, you get like the person. I mean, I have to be careful not to dox somebody else or dox myself. But I'm thinking of this one person in particular who, she was not particularly nice. Okay, she was like really, really aggressively mean to contractors who would come in to do cabling, for instance, for contracts to like wire terminals to mainframes and things back in the day. But man, she put in her time and ended up being the person whose job it was to go around the cubes, making sure that nobody had what are those stupid power strip things plugged into another power strip, because that's against the fire code. That was like her job for a while, just going around with a clipboard, making sure that
power strips.
Yeah, making sure that nobody had daisy chained a power strip, in their cubicle, or that they didn't have like a space heater or something plugged in that was going to throw a circuit.
In my case, one of my clients had Christmas tree lights and it blew up his server.
Nice. But eventually she just stuck around long enough that she actually ended up being in charge of stuff.
Jesus.
I mean, I've seen it firsthand, but I mean, to her credit, she did actually, grow into the position, and at least, when she ended up being in charge of stuff, she actually tried to do a pretty good job. I mean, I don't have any particular
handles so carefully.
Yeah, I don't really have any animosity toward her, but somebody like Buttigieg, yeah, he's just like a serial screwer-upper of things. He's singularly unqualified, and I just don't feel that somehow his bedroom practices make him the best person in the country to be in charge of the Department of Transportation.
No, and one other thing is the Department of Transportation, there are certain cabinet positions that require competence, and there are certain cabinet positions that are handed out as bonbons to party faithful. And transportation, labor, secretary, the secretaries of those departments don't ever have anything to do. It would be dangerous if they did. If Pete Buttigieg could actually affect the systems of transportation in this country, it would be like giving a 3-year-old a loaded 45 in a crowded auditorium, a drunk 3-year-old. Nothing good would happen.
Yeah, nothing good would happen. So, Prospero, you're being very well behaved. Do you want a piece of this?
Skep actually mentioned it, and there has got to be a parody somewhere of someone seeing when Pete was a lad, he served a term as office boy in an attorney's firm. And he cleaned the windows and he polished. Yes. He cleaned the windows and he swept the floor and he polished up the handle on the big front.
He polished up the handle of the big front door.
And he polished up the handle so carefully that now he is an admiral in the Queen's Navy. The ruler of the Queen's Navy.
And then Kamala polished the knob a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of knob polishing.
That's because she is little whore.
I think what Skep just said was worse than me saying the F word. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. I'm just going to throw the allegedly up there. I don't know if that solves anything.
Her first position was sitting on Willie Brown's staff. Just understand that.
Yeah.
It's okay, Daddy Susan. It's been 20 minutes.
Really, she was working under Willie Brown.
Yeah. Boy, was she.
Yeah.
But anyway, Serenity is still here. Do you want a piece of Mayor Pete before we move on? Good old pothole Pete.
He's an idiot. That's all I got. Because I mean, the dude, like, you waited a month to come see the people in. I still say Palestine because I'm West Virginia, East Palestine. Like, I got no respect for you, but you never had any respect for anybody to begin with.
Yeah.
10 days before he even gave a comment.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's
with it's one of those things that. It's what I said on, obviously it wasn't on the last episode because I had no power, but the one before that where it's like, there's very obvious, I feel personally, allegedly, that there is very targeted stances by certain people on certain groups. And I don't think they quite understand that this is not high school and rednecks hold grudges.
Oh, well,
and Midwesterners hold grudges. You do not want to do this.
Yeah, to be as charitable as possible. I mean, as charitable as possible, the optics are bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my stance.
That's
being the most charitable I can be.
Yeah.
That's very polite of you. Let's see. What is the next thing? Oh, well, a small thing happened. The second largest bank in the United States was basically closed down and thrown to the FDIC, and this is
I hate it when
particularly
that happens.
this is particularly bad. I want to play the first 1 minute and 7 seconds of this
believe
thing
it's
here,
16
and then I'm going to
months,
say a
definitely.
few words, and then Skep is going to take over because he knows way more about this than I do. But I can provide a little bit of context. Let's see.
Biggest bank
Can you hear
failure
that?
in American history is happening
Yes, we
right
can.
now in our own backyard. It's been a really shocking 48 hours for Silicon Valley Bank, and now the government has taken control of it. So here is how all of this happened. It started late Wednesday when the bank surprised investors saying it needed to raise more than $2 billion in capital to offset losses from bond sales. Well, that caused an all-out panic among the bank's clients, who tried to withdraw $42 billion on Thursday alone, about a quarter of the bank's total deposits. The company's shares tanked 60%. Shares were halted altogether this morning. And now the feds have seized control of the lender. Silicon Valley Bank is among the top 20 commercial banks in the entire U.S., according to the FDIC. Its collapse is a huge deal. It's the biggest bank failure since Washington Mutual way back in 2008. Today, at the bank's Menlo Park branch, there was a line of about 50 people waiting in the rain, desperately trying to withdraw their money, but that didn't happen. Instead, FDIC representatives told them, come back on Monday, and then you can withdraw up to $250,000. SVB says half of all startups that went public last year were their customers. A huge portion of the Bay Area economy is tied up in all of this.
Yes, that is the salient point. half of all these Silicon Valley startups basically bank through Silicon Valley Bank. So I don't need to belabor this point too much, but the way this game sort of works is you have an idea, you go talk to some venture capitalists and you say, give me money, and then we will go do this thing and we will all become fantastically rich. When you approach the venture capitalists, they sort of like trying to pitch a movie idea. They have a whole machinery, a whole apparatus of people and processes and things in place. And what they will literally say is, okay, we're going to do this thing. We're going to transfer this money. Go see my guy over at Silicon Valley Bank, and they will set your new venture up that we're investing in, there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the people go out to Sand Hill Road, they talk to the VCs, and next thing you know, they're doing business with Silicon Valley Bank because that's what one does. Mm-hmm. That's what the relationships are, because everybody's just sort of used to putting money in and pulling money out of that particular bank in that particular culture. So yeah, it's the second biggest bank and it's not the end of the world, but in terms of what it's going to do to a whole bunch of these startups in Silicon Valley being able to just make payroll is going to be really, really painful. I did some consulting, it was like 2000-ish, for this company in San Francisco, and they were actually going to be doing really, really well. They had a fantastic business plan, all that sort of stuff. The CFO was inexperienced for this startup, and he just made like a little mistake, and it literally caused the whole company to just sort of collapse. They took the money that they had on hand, through one hell of a blowout party to wish everybody go have a nice life, and then just closed up shop. It is so easy for a startup to implode that something like this could just be the death of a good number of those startups. This is a big deal. So anyway,
real
go
quick
ahead.
question, because I have a feeling Skep's about to rotor up here in a second. Is this all just startups in California, or is this startups across the country?
Well, a lot of these startups are located in California, but many of them are located in other places as well.
That makes it
know.
And it's not just startups. There's
Oh yeah, that
No.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
startups made up, I think it was somewhere about half of their clientele. So there's some serious power players that use that bank as well.
You wouldn't get to be the second largest bank in the U.S. just
If you
dealing
were
with
just
Silicon Valley startups. I was
No,
just trying to say there's a reason why so many of the startups were in that particular bank as opposed to Bank of
Because that's what they
America or some other thing.
Capital One or
Exactly.
That's what they specialized in, which
I
has been a huge industry for the States is the tech sector. You guys have innovated, and Silicon Valley has been a blessing to the world in some cases with some of the developments they made there. So, to have that sort of localized, air quotes here, community bank kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
No,
if you're transferring like $200,000 just to basically get something started, and you just gave somebody a check for $200,000 and said, "Okay, go on down to Wells Fargo and try to deposit that," Wells Fargo, they would hurt themselves laughing at you when you asked them how many days it was going to take for that check to clear.
Yeah, really.
There's a reason why all of the money is just circling through, or was circling through, Silicon Valley Bank. So I just wanted to provide that little bit of context, because that's the only part of it that I actually know something about. And Skep knows way more about this than so I'm just going to throw to you. Do you want to display stuff, or do you want me to show links, or what do you want me to do, Skep?
I may have a screen to present here, but
Okay.
most of what I have is just words.
Okay, go ahead. It's all you.
Here, the cat out of the bag. And not just
Yeah, is he roboting for anybody else?
Yeah, can you start over? Your signal dropped terribly, Skep. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
better
you
or not
disappeared. You're okay now.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Uh-oh. No, you're still roboting,
soon.
Skep. You're still roboting.
Okay.
Real bad.
Do we want to circle back?
Yeah, we probably are going to have... Yeah, you're having some problems, Skep. I think we're going to have to circle back to this.
Oh, golly.
Okay, yeah. Well, usually it's me screwing things up on the technical side.
No, it's not. You don't screw stuff up even close to that much.
I haven't done anything.
Well,
Am I still
Probably just
roboting?
nervous. No, no.
Am I
not
still
this
roboting?
second.
Good.
Okay,
good.
let's try one more time.
Third time's a
All
charm.
right. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can everybody hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
5 by 5.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to move from this position. I'm not even going to move my lips while I say this.
Please move your lips.
All right. So this did not start 3 days ago, like that report said. This actually started 3 years ago. 3 years ago, the guy who was in charge of operations at SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, went to the regulators. Specifically went to a bunch of lobbyists with a suitcase of $500,000 in his hand, basically handed the suitcase over and said, change this regulation so that we are not covered by it. What we want you to do is take this from institutions that do less than $50 billion. We want you to only scrutinize institutions that do less than $250 billion. What that had the effect of doing is putting more discretion back in the hands of the chief executive officer, who turned out to be irresponsible. And what he did was he said, I've got to manage the liquidity requirements for my bank. Now, very briefly, what liquidity requirements are is the amount of money you have to have in a liquid state where you could provide cash. And actually, the technical rule is within 24 hours. You have to have a certain percentage of your deposits convertible into that. So here's what they do: that you have this huge pot of money. You know, when a banker gets handed $1 from a depositor, he gets an asset and a liability instantly of $1. That's the way the banking business works. So he's got these assets that are also liabilities, and they're just sitting there. So he puts them to work. How does he put them to work? Well, he loans them out. He puts them out at very safe loans in things like commercial paper, bankers' acceptances, short-term debt obligations that carry a very low coupon rate. They pay a very low rate of interest. What this guy did was he said, I'm going to buy long-term treasuries, okay, because they're safe, right? Because they have a much higher coupon rate than these low coupon rate paying bankers' acceptances that are the usual stock and trade for keeping a big pot of money around and keeping it safe, absolutely safe. So he instead of settling for 0.9% interest, he was getting like 1.8% interest, but he was tying up the money for 30 years or even in 10-year notes too, I guess. 10-year. Anyway, it doesn't matter what they're called. So, so when interest rates went up, when Biden gave away the store and basically torched our currency, inflation started. This push inflation started, and when the value of the currency goes down and interest rates go up, the value of a treasury bond you bought 2 weeks ago that has a lower coupon rate than the current treasury bonds that are being issued mean that the bonds that you bought 2 weeks ago are only worth a fraction of what they call par, and they won't get back to par 100% until it matures in 30 years. Well, that will not pay the liquidity bulldog because that's 30 years. That's not convertible overnight, and that's where this guy ran afoul. And so here's what he had to do. In order to make his liquidity requirement, in order to turn those assets into cash, into liquid cash, he had to take a huge loss. I believe it was 1.8 billion, wasn't it, Harry? And that money will never come back. That money is gone. Gone, gone. And
it's gone.
And what Functional was saying about or maybe it was Harry talking about the coverage limit on FDIC is correct. It covers up to $250,000. But here's what the FDIC usually does in these kind of things, because what happens now is Mr. Becker is no longer in charge of SVB. They've been seized by the FDIC. The FDIC is going to take them and essentially just distribute their assets. And it may emerge as a going concern in some other way, but only after huge losses are being taken. Here's what the FDIC usually does in these cases. Usually, particularly if it's a smaller bank, they'll pay all the money, even if it's over the insured amount, and that is simply to maintain an orderly market. They have money set aside for that, but it's usually not a significant expense for them. Here, that is pretty much out of the question, because it looks like these guys were keeping payroll kinds of money and years of growth kind of money, years of capitalization kind of money, and that's what has vanished. So this thing has become a legal neutron star, for one thing. This is a fucking magnetar. It's so bad, and anybody who's near this thing, personally, is going to get hurt if they had any part in this mismanagement. Becker, I think, is going to go to jail. And I think a bunch of people at SVB are going to go to jail. And the impact on the local community, when you have so many dynamic little companies that are based on being able to meld these very talented people together, and those people are glued together by many things, and one of the components of that glue is money. And for them to suddenly sustain this kind of deep personal, this is just going to slash some of these little companies. They will fly apart, and these people find other jobs. And the people who take the risk, who have the imagination, who have the vision, will be set back. All their dreams just immediately went to hell because of this asshole Becker. And this really is at his feet. If he had not been overextending himself, and that's just pure greed, pure greed is what did this. I've looked through what he did, the moves he made. No, I won't bore you with it, but he just is an extremely irresponsible businessman, and he has ruined things for a lot of people.
Hey, Skep.
That's what I got, Harry.
Hey, Skep, I got a question.
Yeah.
I know everything affects everything, so I know that. But does all of the tech companies firing or laying off, let me use the correct term, laying off all those employees, like the 60,000 Did that have an effect on this, or was it them knowing that this was coming and
No,
or am I just
this
jumping
was
to conclusions?
no. This was a guy mishandling the assets.
Okay.
This was the guy who was given stewardship of a pot of money, and there
Okay.
are rules that govern the types of investments that you can make. But he got the scrutiny lifted off of him. Okay, so they couldn't look at what he was doing, and then he did those unconscionable things. He thought he could get away with it. He acted as though he thought interest rates could never rise. And of course, when they went up, he was crushed, and he nuked himself.
Okay.
No, this is one guy.
Okay, I just I put my little tinfoil hat on. Then
In my opinion, this is all my opinion, guy, and it's all allegedly.
Well,
So I have a question. Oh, sorry, go right ahead.
No, I was just saying it sounds a lot like when Sam Bankman-Fried stuff up. That's basically what this sounds like, just not on the crypto sphere.
Yeah, it's a different kind of a thing. What Fried did was just out and out fraud. What this guy did was skirt regulations irresponsibly and got nailed by the market. So
Gotcha.
Two sort of different things, but they had elements of dishonesty and betrayal of trust that are undeniably similar.
Okay, sorry, Harry.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that the bank holds as assets.
Yeah.
So there are all the outstanding loans. There's other vehicles that they may have. There's just all sorts of things that are in the plus column for this company. Now, they lost a bunch of money because the value of these bonds dropped because inflation went up. That much we know. Now, what I don't know is, of the overall value of this bank, what percentage of people's money would they get back once they go through the fire sale? Are we looking at people losing 10%, potentially losing like 10% or 50% or 100%? Because I just don't know what percentage of the assets were affected by this interest rate increase. And we probably won't know for a while.
They don't know. That's what I was about to say. They don't know. They're going to have to assess this. I will tell you this, because of bankroom regulations, it will be public. You will know that number, and you'll probably know it pretty soon. I would estimate that of the percentage over $250,000, I would say if those people get 50% of that back, it will be the happiest day of their lives. It should be the happiest day of their lives if they get 50% of that.
Well, hopefully it'll be more than that. But I
pray that you're right. This thing moved against him on a gigantic thing. Here's the unforgivable thing: when it started to go bad, he kept quiet. He didn't go out and say, "Hey, I fucked up. Let's control this while it's a $200 million problem," and that's how it became a $1 billion problem instead of $1 million problem.
If Pete Buttigieg had been on their board of directors, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Kamala.
Pete Buttigieg could not even understand what happened.
I wouldn't let Pete Buttigieg hold the cigar box that holds the money from a Girl Scout cookie sale.
Exactly.
Want to know an even more frightening thought?
Sure.
Is if AOC was on their board.
Oh, good gracious.
I've got a couple questions.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Functional, and I'm pretty sure Prospero wants to talk about the Peter Thiel angle too, or Thiel.
Oh, okay, great.
Go ahead.
Well, the first is, as far as anybody knows, Skep probably directed toward you, do these banks by regulation have to have hard assets, or can they be virtual assets as well?
No, they are hard assets. In fact, that's when
they have to have things like cash, gold on hand.
It's got to be convertible to cash in 24 hours.
Oh, okay. So there's a window. Okay. And the second is more of a thought statement.
Understand convertible to cash in 24 hours by their standards basically means cash.
Yeah.
Basically means cash, maybe gold.
Yeah, things that have, okay. And the second was almost more of a statement, but this should have reverberations across the country as far as the financial sector, correct? The impact might be lesser or more depending on how close they are to this.
Well, there's actually two kinds of impacts. There's a impact of financial institutions, which will be not that tremendous. It'll actually be an opportunity for other banks to come in, pick up clientele, to help pick up the pieces. Probably,
Oh, yeah.
they'll probably sell chunks of the clientele off. There's that. Where this will have an effect is in the real loss that is sustained broadly across Silicon Valley. I'm really concerned that this is just the worst possible time for this to happen, Harry. Don't you think?
You mean 2023? Yeah, 2023, as in the current year, is about as bad a time for this to happen as you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I called up a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who's a corporate lawyer, a high-powered corporate lawyer, and talked to him a little bit about this. And he said, "Well, it's okay by me personally." He said, "I got a letter from Stanford Credit Union today saying we have absolutely nothing to do with these no-talent ass clowns over at SVB." And so I expect we're going to be getting a lot of that kind of mail from people. Saying, we're a bank that doesn't do stupid things like that, and in the case of Bank of America, we're no longer associated with the mafia.
Yeah.
Allegedly,
They made Wells Fargo stop advertising that in 2008. They were the one bank that didn't require the bailout and asked not to be a part of the bailout, and they were forced to be a part of the bailout because the other banks did. No, the other banks are doing it. You have to do it too, even though you didn't expose yourself.
That was the Ford syndrome.
Yeah.
Remember, Ford Motors had to take
Ford Motors, right? Yeah.
Well, I think I'd like to end on
anyway.
We do have to move forward at some point. But I think it would be good to have Prospero talk a little bit about the Peter Thiel thing and the blame game that's starting up, and then we can move on after that. But we have to touch on that, and I think you need to be the person to tell us.
Well, I mean, I only dug into this about as far as Twitter threads and taking little peeks around to, the current zeitgeist of the ignorati is that Peter Thiel, because he's a venture capitalist, and the wrong kind of gay and supported Trump, because those are usually their reasons. It had to do with this. This was somehow or another his fault. Now, Bloomberg was reporting that as of Monday morning, Thiel had no money at SVB at all. And it all went sideways as far as the panic on Thursday. This notion that these evil venture capitalists, you see, all made this happen because it couldn't be shady dealings on the part of individuals involved with the bank, right? That never happens. Charles Keating.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, the sub-thread to this is Trump's regulatory rollback is to blame, as opposed to regulators dancing like little puppets doing favors for sleazy bastards.
Because everything's Trump's fault.
Yeah. You know what's annoying about this? But the one angle that nobody's talking about is how is this going to affect me personally? And what's going to mean to me personally is that Elizabeth Warren's going to come out and she's going to go, blah, 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 Glass-Steagall, blah, blah, blah. And she's going to I'm going to have to listen to that woman again, and I don't want to.
It's been kind of nice because she's been kind of quiet recently.
Yeah, she's been kind of obsoleted off onto the, like she's like the merchandise that's headed to the dollar store. She's not at the dollar store yet, but she's just not, she's on the low shelf at the supermarket. And now she's going to be right back up on the high shelf at eye level.
Yeah, she honks off on that crap the way people were honking off on Dodd-Frank.
Yeah, she's an expert on stuff like this, don't you know?
Oh, don't you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because she's one, I'm sorry, she's just another one of those bottom feeders. The problem, it seems to me, is that we have a regulatory culture, and this is across the board throughout agencies, where they can be bought, so to speak. They can be persuaded, lobbied, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to write this regulation this way. And this goes all the way back to the introduction of the regulatory state.
Mm-hmm.
It was the meat packers that wrote the rules for meat packing. It was that. Now I do understand to some extent that people within certain industries have more conversant knowledge, but that does not excuse the corruption within our regulatory system. Yeah, that too.
I mean, the revolving door in Washington between
Right. Lobbyists
And
and regulators.
Lobbyists, regulators, and politicians, in out,
Yep.
in out, in out. I mean, it is a daisy chain. It really is.
Circle jerk is
And
how
not
that's
the
pronounced.
kind. Yeah, I know, not that kind of daisy chain. It's the human centipede.
Yeah.
There wasn't a swear word in a thing that I said.
No, you did really, really well. But we have another.
As angry as I am, yes, I did.
Another financial thing, and this one will be much shorter. Vanguard CEO defends decision to pull asset manager out of climate alliance. Yes, Vanguard, one of the biggest mutual fund companies in the world, has sort of backed away from ESG sort of stuff in terms of their investing. The chief executive of Vanguard has defended his decision to pull the world's second largest asset manager out of an industry-wide alliance to tackle climate change, saying the group's voice was being drowned out. Now that's some beautiful spin.
Can I translate that for you? You guys are investing in some stuff that's too fracking crazy even for me.
Yes.
Yep.
In December,
should be, and I'm not risking. I have a fiduciary responsibility to my clients, and I am not risking going to prison because of the boop shoobies that you guys are trying to pull on people.
or just being a giant loser by losing all of your customers' money. Vanguard's a pretty good outfit if you look at their track record. But anyway,
I have a lot of money in Vanguard. I actually like Vanguard. Their no load stuff is good.
The One Up on Wall Street is a decent book. Anyway, in December, Vanguard resigned from the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative, a coalition of 301 asset managers committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Definitely. If you want to, there's another 300 asset managers that will be more than happy to use ESG as the guidance for investing your retirement money. Buckley has added that the Vanguard approach to managing climate change risks, which is focused primarily on company disclosure standards, has not changed. That's nice. We don't believe that we should dictate company strategy, he said in his first public comments about the decision. It would be hubris to presume that we know the right strategy for the thousands of companies that Vanguard invests in. We just want to make sure that risks are being appropriately disclosed and that every company is playing by the rules. And to that I say...
Harry,
Yes?
can you close that video that's playing? That's pissing me off because that stuff is...
Why? What's pissing you off about it?
The
Now it's there.
Yeah.
well, it's fine. It's not in my face constantly while you're reading the article.
Scroll the thing.
It's the climate change people who want to integrate
Unite our
Canadian-
energy systems.
the Canadian and the American grids, and
What could possibly go wrong?
Go fuck
Yeah.
yourself.
it's such a
Anybody
terrible
remember the
freaking
Great
idea.
Blackout?
I have no problem with us working together because, like, again, my province is an energy generating province. I have no problem sending power down there and whatever, and making these deals. But to have it all integrated into one system is such a bad idea. Centralization of that scale never works.
Yeah.
Monopolies
Well,
are a good
Sorry to
thing.
go off on the tangent, but it
Yeah.
kind of.
all it takes is a good ice storm in Quebec, and New England goes dark.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I just am glad that the adults in the room over at Vanguard have decided to actually sort of focus more on business fundamentals.
I think there was a warning contained in his comments, actually, was what I was itching to say.
Yeah.
In the risks being adequately
Disclosed.
Yes.
disclosed.
Disclosed.
Okay,
That is
So hold on.
a tiny little. I just think that's a tiny little ding.
Okay.
I agree with
hold on. I think that most people, maybe I'm wrong here, but I suspect that most people don't understand what he's referring to when he talks about risks in ESG. Okay. The E part in the risk is the companies have to talk about their susceptibility to climate change impacting their operations.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the disclosure that they're talking about, they're saying, hey, if you have a factory that makes most of your stuff that's at 0.1 feet above sea level in Bangladesh, maybe you should talk about what would happen if the sea levels increased. So he's absolutely right. If your business is particularly susceptible to climate change, then an investor who thinks climate change is an issue would want to know about that. Right. So that's the risk that he's talking about. Were you thinking of something else, or am I just confused that everybody already knew that?
I was thinking of something else. I think there are costs involved here that Vanguard might not be willing to pay the price because there's no
there there.
There's
no proof.
There's no there. It's a
that's what I thought too, Harry. What
shifting set of goalposts on the part of these. I'm actually surprised that the fascistic among our leadership didn't lose their shit and try to bar Vanguard from doing business in the United States, since their reflexive thing seems to be to want to shut down everybody.
Vanguard's really, really big.
I know they are.
You can say shut them down, but
I think not going to happen.
No government pension money should be tied up in Vanguard, and then very quietly there'd be people in the back room going, how badly would you like the pensions to perform?
I'd be shocked if Vanguard wasn't one of the options that they're allowed to choose from.
That's exactly it. Always is. Every pension plan I've ever seen. Vanguard.
Which Fidelity plan fund would you like to invest in? But anyway, this could get. We've already talked about banking enough, and now we're getting into fun stuff. But hold on, Serenity is just trying desperately to say something.
Well, no, I have two questions.
Okay.
So, does BlackRock similar to Vanguard in any way, or are they two kind of different processing entities?
No.
Okay. So
Apple and Locomotive.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question. Does Vanguard saying no, do you think this will be a flag to other of the 300 that we know of to also say no?
No. Because they're not that smart. Okay, I think Vanguard is getting out ahead of the. I think they're ahead of the wave of change.
Gotcha.
I think so too, but I don't think people, once they invest in something, most people are not that good about.
No, the other fund managers.
The other fund managers will eventually, but I don't think it's going to be like all of a sudden. Oh, well, we should change. Okay. I think there's going to be some delay because people do not generally like to admit that they've done something wrong.
Well, they're getting the other fund managers are just at the getting drunk over it stage. You see what Vanguard's done? Yeah, I got to get drunk after work. Yeah, let's get drunk over it for about a month and figure out what we're going to do. Maybe eventually we'll be as smart as Vanguard. Don't get me started.
Anyway, I ask questions because I do some investing stuff on the side. So I
no, that's good. That's good. Are there any questions in chat that I should be paying attention to and missing?
Although,
I think what came to Vanguard's sort of benefit is the way that they worded how they were pulling out of this. They didn't say, no, this shit is insane. Climate change is bullshit. We're not pissing our money away. No, but they worded it just right so that there's not going to be a huge blowback because it's political.
We're pulling back just a little bit.
It's optics, and you can see a similar pattern happening in Hollywood with this woke nonsense. There's rumblings, reliable rumblings behind the scenes at like Disney that both Marvel and Star Wars Lucasfilm properties are failing them and hemorrhaging Disney money. And with Disney's other main projects like the new Little Mermaid and Tinkerbell and whatever, like the response is so negative. They are kind of in damage control mode and they don't know what to do. We may even see, if they don't do something beneficial to their bottom line soon that they might actually have to sell Marvel and or Lucasfilm to someone else, and that would be huge. That's the entertainment side of Vanguard pulling out of ESG.
I would love to
This
see
woke nonsense is not working.
I would love to see Disney go full Sears on things. Go Serenity.
I've heard the opposite rumblings that's the reason why Bob Iger was brought back in, and it's already starting to fix itself. So I think it just depends on who you hear through. But yeah. No.
I don't trust him. You know, it's like when you started talking about Pickard being good with season 3, and I'd heard that from some other people. I'm like, no, I'm not going to allow you to hurt me again.
Yeah,
you're not going to wound me again.
Fool me
it's
once,
not
shame
happen.
on me. Fool me twice.
I'm not going to kick the ball.
Do like a whole season that isn't terrible, and then I'll consider it. But 1 episode, 2 episodes, you know, fool can't be fooled again, to quote George Bush. So, Functional, while I've got your attention, you know how I love to talk to you about food, right?
Roger Daltrey.
Food.
Because we're both former hospitality industry professionals. The KFC Double Down is back for 30 days. So, for anybody who doesn't know, it's basically like bread just gets in the way of fried chickeny goodness. Why don't we just make a melted bacon and cheese sandwich and then just use super crusty chicken patties for the buns? What's your opinion of this? Is this like a brilliant idea? I mean, I think the fact that they're only bringing it back every now and then to kind of hype it, I think that's a brilliant idea. But do you think this is...
Well, yeah, they're riding those coattails of McDonald's McRib.
Yeah.
Exactly
I mean, it's the same marketing strategy. You create a lack in the supply. You make it available for a little bit of time. And it actually does well. That people love the Double Down. A little dark secret, I love KFC. Up here, I love KFC. I don't know if I know food is a little bit different from border to border, but I'm guessing it's pretty much the same because KFC is just one of those brands that it's just kind of like the same. We might just have different chicken inside. I love the Double Down. I get it without the cheese because I can't have the cheese, but it is so good to just have these 2 chicken patties, no bun too, and just bacon in between. Oh, I love it. I love corn. There you go, Cannibalistic Wizards with me on this. Oh, it is
the Eric Cartman sandwich, really, though. Although Eric Cartman would just basically get the bacon and the cheese and just the crust from the fried chicken and just leave the patties out, I think.
And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's also kind of responsible because it is so damn fucking good and so terrible for you that they don't want people to be like, you know, eating this for 6 months straight and like going, oh, KFC made me fat. Like,
well, it could.
I mean, better between slabs of Texas.
That thing is chocked full of addictive elements. The grease, the salt,
Except it's KFC, for heaven's sake.
What about slapping two cocaine infused French toast slabs on each side and make it just absolutely perfect?
Oh, that would be amazing.
Now, if that were Papa,
if I were only a young man,
the most addictive sandwich ever.
And just a dash of love, and by love I mean fentanyl.
A love drug, not
Prospero wants it with better tasting chicken, is what she's trying to say.
Oh yeah, I will not eat KFC.
Yeah, it's not food, really.
But like fried chicken and bacon together.
It's the worst. It is the worst chain fast chicken that I can.
Their oil's not fresh, and you can taste it. It tastes like shit.
And it permeates. It's when you peel off the skin, there's oil between the meat and the skin. That's wrong. That's not how to.
I call that the love layer.
Is that congealed stuff? That pasty congealed crap?
That's because it's.
Oh, you're making me hungry.
I've seen it runny oil, you know, and it's.
I can tell you why that is, Prospero. Because when you make fried chicken, proper daughter of the South that you are.
I don't.
You don't? Okay, Serenity, do you make fried chicken? Please tell me that the guy from California is not the only one here who makes fried chicken.
The guy from Alabama and Texas.
Okay, so when you make fried chicken, you cook it at a temperature where basically the
It's
steam coming out of the food is supposed to essentially keep the oil from penetrating in.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the right temperature to have it cook fully, but not get greasy. Now, what KFC does in order to feed lots and lots of people is they use something called a pressure fryer. So that steam does not do anything. If anything, you're actually forcing hot oil into,
Right. That's what it
into
does.
the product.
That's exactly what you're.
Yeah.
that's
And
what
other
that
places
pressure frying
manage
does.
to cook their
Yeah.
chicken
I forgot
Wh-
about that.
where they don't infuse that much grease in it.
Well, don't use a pressure fryer
Yeah,
for
I mean-
thing one.
Fires up here.
Yeah, I mean, you get Popeye's tendies, you don't get that crap.
I make
Popeye-
perfectly
Popeye
good fried
tendies are
chicken.
awesome.
I've actually
Again,
gotten
the food
pretty good
is
at it.
very honestly, even chains, the food is very different up here than it is down there, and that's probably the key reason, Harry. They use an open fryer up here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, because
No.
then they can manage their.
I mean,
temperature and-
Pressure fryers have their place. I mean, you can use them successfully with like
they're amazing for French.
terrorists, pedophiles.
Yeah,
You know that's when you use a pressure. That's when you're forcing the hot air into the meat, the hot oil into the meat. That's
I prefer the bronze bull personally.
Okay, you people.
Anyway.
Moving on.
hijacking the stream.
So
back
one
to work, Eric.
more fast food thing. There's a guy who's decided to say, look at me, by sort of doing what Morgan Spurlock did, but not quite. Super downsize me, Tennessee man going on 100-day McDonald's diet to improve health.
You can do that.
Now, sorry?
You can do that.
yeah,
You can do that. And the thing he's doing that's different than Morgan Spurlock is he's putting all of his stuff on the TikTok, as the kids call it. And he's actually been losing a fair amount of weight, but the difference between him and Morgan Spurlock is he's only eating half of each meal. He'll go to McDonald's, he'll order, pancakes and hash browns and all that sort of stuff, and then just eat half. Or he'll order
Probably
it.
put himself on about a 1,200, 1,500 calorie diet. Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, he's losing a little more than a pound a day on average.
Yeah. Imagine my shock eating
Yeah, I
less
know.
and losing weight. It's
so
how that
peculiar
works.
how that calorie count actually matters.
but not not all. And some people are actually healthier the fatter they get.
Yes, of course they are.
Yeah, that's totally true, Susan.
Healthy at any size.
Now, he's actually also getting the blood work done, and so far his numbers are actually all improving. It just goes to show that the whole idea that if you're going to diet, that just changing what you eat is somehow the magic bullet. Now, the magic bullet is reducing the amount of food.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because if you eat 6,000 calories of high quality, organic, biodynamic, ESG compatible food, you might have a rosier complection, but you're still going to be, you might as well just have Goodyear tattooed on the side
You're
of
going
you.
to look like Trigglypuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're going if you still need volume, you've got to do that with leafy greens and things like that. Look for
Water.
high water content vegetables.
Yep.
Complex carbs in vegetables too, because the glycemic index on the complex carbs is better than the simple carbohydrates. They spike your blood sugar where the others don't do
Yeah.
quite.
The problem is how fast it gets converted
Metabolized,
to glycogen.
Yeah.
And the glycogen conversion rate for straight disaccharide sugars is called nothing flat. It's called immediate. The only thing that burns faster is alcohol. Anyway, enough of that.
And we also constantly forget, it's energy in, energy out. And as we leave our young adulthood, where we're pretty much most of us are at our most active, and then enter like the professional world or something, and we don't be as active,
world.
but our eating habits are the same. Yeah, you're taking in more energy than your body needs. You need to step back, and you need to, even if you're hungry, you need to just power through and starve yourself a little bit so that your body gets used to eating less.
Well, some people manage this by eating small meals more than 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So that they don't get the twitches.
Yeah.
But it's, we've got this. A friend of mine said years ago, one of the problems is that the foods that are so good for you are so very aggressive to eat. They're very crunchy or noisy. They're not soft and warm and mouth huggy.
Welcoming.
Yeah.
Where macaroni and
Kale
cheese
versus a beef.
and mashed potatoes with gravy or just nice little slip and slides down the gullet and lovely little mouth hugs of happiness. Where eating a bag of carrots and chewing on raw broccoli is aggressive crunch, crunch, crunch.
It
crunch.
takes effort. It
And
takes effort
more
to
energy.
eat.
It does. And it wears you out and it makes you sad.
And you feel like you're grazing when you're eating raw cauliflower,
How dare you put sliced almonds on top of my cheesecake?
Yeah.
Better be deep frying that cauliflower.
But we do need to move forward if that's okay. I'm sorry.
that.
Well, I have one little bit of Schadenfreude for you. I think you'll enjoy this. At least anybody who's old enough to recognize who knows who Angela Davis is, confirmed professional Marxist.
Any idea what you're looking at?
Oh, yeah.
That is a list of the passengers on the Mayflower.
No, bitch.
No, I can't believe this. No, my ancestors did not come here on the Mayflower.
Your ancestors came on the Mayflower.
No.
You are descended
No.
from one of the 101 people who sailed on the Mayflower.
Oof.
Oof, indeed.
That's one way to put it.
That episode goes on.
Well,
that episode goes on. Also, another one of her ancestors was a slave owner.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is one of the United States' chief proponents of
Communism.
reparations.
Communism.
And communism.
Serious communism.
Finding out that maybe she's practically a daughter of the American Revolution.
the Black Pantherette finds out she's a daughter of the Confederacy. I
Yeah.
love it.
She's lighter than my father.
Yeah, maybe you should just like 23andMe yourself before you get. I don't use the word you were about to use, Harry. Before you decide to start acting out.
Before you get out in front of yourself. Yes.
Before I get out in front of myself, well, I'm still trying to live down that me forgetting about the 14th Amendment thing that you reminded me of, Prospero.
Oh,
When I was extolling the virtues of the Bill of Rights.
yes.
Yes. So this next
things
thing
happen once in a while in my favor. Not often. But.
Okay, so there was a how do I phrase this? I have to be very, very, very careful about this next topic. Essentially, at a township in New Jersey, there was a girl who was bullied. We cannot show that because Susan doesn't like that, or proxies for Susan. And then she basically took her own life 2 days later. And they didn't bother to, when she was attacked in the hallway by a group of other girls with a weapon, they didn't bother to call the police. They just sent her to the school nurse. And this is a horrible thing. Now, this young girl, clearly, she rides horses, which means, she's from a family that's got some amount of money, right? Because usually poor kids don't get to be the ones that ride horses, at least not where she lives.
Yeah. In Uvalde, Texas, those poor kids ride horses, though.
Yeah, and so the people in the school and the community are outraged, talking about bullying as being the main point of this particular story. And I just wanted to show you, let me see, I'm sorry, I have to be very, very careful. I'm sorry if I'm just being a little circumspect here. But I want to show you this one reaction from one of the students there.
Or so students who protested throughout the school day, skipping class, demanding action.
I would like them to actually teach the people who bully what they're actually doing and how it affects them.
Parents were here in support of their children.
Okay.
Bullies don't
Somebody
care.
needs a little bit of bullying.
Okay, so here's the point that I'm trying to get at as carefully as possible. if somebody was in danger of being assaulted or robbed or something like that, you could say, well, we need to teach people not to assault and not to rob and not to murder and do all these other things, right? But at the same time, maybe, just maybe, you talk about how to improve the security at your house, put in cameras, motion activated lights, take a self-defense course, whatever. This is not victim blaming. This is not victim blaming.
No.
But looking at the kids and the way they're responding, I understand why they're upset. But I really feel like any approach that doesn't also look at making the kids handle the bullying better, like more toughening, more fortitude, is just going to lose. Because if all you do is hope that you're going to eliminate bullying, you're never going to eliminate it 100%. And you don't want these kids just collapsing like a house of cards when some bully makes its way through the system, because you're never going to get all of them. So why isn't somebody talking about like the mental health of the kids and
Alerting
ways
the
that
parents
we can, make the kids feel more
that their child is
self-assured?
that their child's undergoing this kind of treatment at school, and say, look, we're trying to mitigate it as best we can, but you are going to need to, you're going to need to play a role in this also. Because encouragement from your parents to certain things can be ignored. Assault cannot be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a fine line between bullying and like being an egregious
and assault. And I mean,
yeah,
that the school was, there are a lot of people to blame here. And the victim is not one of them.
No, she's a 14-year-old girl.
She was unprepared for these kinds of events. She's a child. She was a child.
And I think the coup de grace was
what race was the child?
White.
Yeah. Not as white as Angela Davis, but no, she was white.
So can we not say that since she was white or white presenting, that she'd had a privileged existence, right?
Well, she probably, by many definitions, did have a privileged existence.
So
her father was in her life. She was riding horses. All sort of stuff.
How is her death unjust? I don't get that.
Well, I mean,
so people of other races die in the world, Harry. People of other races die, Harry.
Yeah, Skep, I actually had an IRL conversation with somebody, a good person, a decent person who I like, who's very smart today, where the topic of, I was talking about how that the crazy thing in Oregon where somebody was proposing that, if you're under 25, you can't be tried as an adult for murder. Now, this is just a bill that somebody was proposing. It's not the actual law in Oregon, as bad as Oregon is.
Yeah.
And I just said, when it comes to the topic of murder, I don't care one scintilla about restorative justice. I just don't. I said it might explain something we can do to fix things moving forward, but restorative justice is just not something I'm concerned with when somebody's taken somebody else's life. I just don't care.
Right.
I don't care at that point. If you want to talk about somebody who's like shoplifting because they got to feed their family, okay, we can have that conversation, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about murder. Now, in this case, this young girl took her life, and, it's not up to me to decide whether we did right or wrong by her, but looking at the kids and the responses that the people are having to this thing, I think that they need to spend a little bit more time working on the mental health of these kids and making them have more fortitude and just more ability to sort of deal with adversity, because you're never going to get rid of all of it. The government is not going to save you. Your parents are not going to save you. ESG is not going to save you.
No, these children are being raised to be brittle little pills that and we train them. We train them to react. Almost like Pavlov's dogs. Remember, when this happens, you're triggered. You get attention when this happens, like rewarding the dog with food. Ring the bell. Okay, when ring the bell, you're going to get attention. Attention feels good. So serotonin must flow. And, that's we train them to react. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing these training children to do psychiatrically unhealthy things, to behave in known bad ways.
Yeah. Proven bad ways. It's Maryland, by the way, that wants to get rid of the age 25.
The adult requirement.
Yeah, I think hold on. There was a good comment from chat, which is, I think you're right. Part of it wasn't just the fact that she got, assaulted in the halls, but that somebody videotaped it and put the stuff out there. So that's a new dimension to things.
Yeah.
Yes.
That my generation did not have to worry about.
Well, one of the problems is and I know you're going to think that I sound like a petrified tree. I am so old and so old-fashioned, but part of it is 14-year-olds shouldn't be on social media, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
The computer. Here's the thing. I would have been a horrid mother from the eyes of some poor victim child who could have told all their friends what a draconian biatch I was, because their phone would call us, mom, dad, the police. Their computer would be in a public space in the house, and it was for schoolwork only and not for dicking around on social media. There would not be the Facebook or the Instagram or the TikTok or the Snappy Chats or the WhatsApps or the
anything that's not educational. Yeah.
Nope, and nope. And I'm so sorry that all your friends, I could hear myself saying what my parents said to me. Well, if all your friends were jumping off bridges, would you do that too?
If all my
drive you
jumping off bridges, I would presume they had a good reason for doing so. And while I might not jump off the bridge immediately, I would certainly look into it and see if there was something there.
My dad would have slapped you into the middle of next week. At least I didn't go litigious on him.
Didn't Jimmy Stewart, when his bank failed, jump off a bridge?
Yes, that's what he was planning on doing.
Nearly.
Yeah, that's what he was. Until Clarence said no. Now that's part of the problem with this is these parasocial relations.
The banks failed. I'm sorry about your deposits.
And to your points of them being, a little bit more fragile, it's the push that was fairly recent as well to sort of like have a zero or near zero tolerance for bullying. But in this case specifically, the staff knew about it. The people who are supposed to be in charge, that you go to, positions of trust that you can confide in when stuff goes beyond just the bullying.
I wonder how many other instances of bullying they were aware of.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how
there's more video, but I can't show it because the last time I showed something violent happening, Susan structures had their way with our channel. So that's why I'm just saying
it's not a singular event. It's a pattern of behavior.
Well,
it can be a singular event,
or it could be a singular event.
If you do it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. Serenity hasn't had a chance in on this. Well, hold on. Prospero, please finish your thought, and then Serenity.
Actually, there wasn't particularly much to finish.
Okay. Well, I was just going to talk about Marcus Aurelius.
I'm not being passive aggressive. There wasn't much to finish.
But,
okay.
So I say this is coming from someone who went to a very large high school and actually knew a couple kids who bullying happened and killed themselves, and this was before social media.
Mm-hmm.
The issue isn't kids being taught about bullying, because as it was stated in the comments, I think it was Assassin, the bullies get off on it. They don't give a gosh darn crap if they're told that they're bullying.
Yeah.
And it's not the hallmark story of, well, they're being treated badly at home, so you need to make it. No, I've known some malicious jerk bullies who had perfectly good homes. So it's not that,
they're
it's
cowards.
Yeah. But the issue is that teachers, and I say this as someone whose grandmother taught for 30 plus years, teachers are just getting lazier. They don't want to do anything. They want to
Show up and get paid.
They want to have TikTok videos where they show themselves and their class is talking to them like they're part of the group. And they want to complain about, I don't get paid enough and blah, 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 blah. Even though teachers in America are some of the best paid teachers in the world for normal levels. And it's just the teachers could have stopped this. Because you can't tell me because I've seen the video that none of them heard that. I know what lockers sound like when you hit them. There's no way in heck that a teacher didn't hear that.
Well,
And
that's why I was focused on the reaction to it.
Yeah.
Like either that kid, that soy-infused young man who looked like he was going to burst into tears.
Well, that's the other issue, is that it's the ones that look like that do that crap. Because those are some of the worst bullies. It's not the big scary dudes or the really prissy pretty girls who are in the popular group. I almost never saw the popular group bully when I was in high school. The ones I saw were the soy boy of a certain sexual lean, and they were the most vicious and malicious, degrading pieces of human garbage. And that's the thing of like, that's the other problem, is that they're not going to go after the real bullies, because the real bullies aren't blonde hair, blue-eyed, rich white people. And that's the other problem, is that, yeah, I was the in-between Prospero. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
but it's one of those things, like, and one of the ironic things that actually helped make it so bullying didn't happen as much in my school is because we were a school of over 3,000 kids. In order to find the kids you were going to bully, it took work, and bullies are inherently lazy, which is also kind of helps. But it's the teachers and the it's like, I want to say it's the upper administration's fault, but they can't do anything if they're not being told. So it's the teacher's fault in my eyes. I can't blame teenagers for not going to it, because how many teenagers walked by when she was getting bullied and didn't say a dang thing? How many are all standing there at that fence?
Oh, they were too busy filming.
Yeah, that's my issue. Is like, well, they need to be taught not to bully. Well, how about you get in the way? Oh, wait, that's right. Then you may get bullied, and God forbid that happens. God forbid you go get a teacher. God forbid you actually do anything. And I think that's the problem. I think social media is a problem, but I think it's a lot of people are so terrified of drawing attention to themselves. It's not attention that they want, that they just stand back and just let stuff happen and just live video. Now, there's some stuff recently that I've started to see that some people are starting to change, but yeah, this is a teachers and the student problem. Now, there's always the fact that some people try to blame the families, where it's like, well, why didn't you notice? It's like, if a teen shuts down and they don't want to talk to you, it's harder than pulling teeth out of a crocodile. It's not happening. And yeah, it's something my cousin recommended to a friend of ours that we share that has kids who are about to be preteens. They were like, if you have social media, even though you don't allow your kid on it, have hashtags that you look for that are specifically for that school and for that area, and check them constantly, because while you don't allow your kid to have social media, the other kids are, and they will report on themselves because they cannot stand it to not post it, because that's the only way you're going to find anything, because these kids are made to feel afraid of saying anything. In some cases, the teachers make them afraid to say anything. Because I think there's been a few cases nationwide where teachers have gotten caught bullying the kids themselves. And that's the other problem. But yeah.
Hold on. So what do you think we could do to make kids more resilient in the face of the bullying that's going to escape whatever we try to do? What would you suggest as a means to make the kids able to sort of tolerate it when it happens a little better?
The major issue is that I think the best way that helped me, because I got bullied for a very short amount of time when I was in middle school and high school. It didn't work out well for them, but is that I had relationships and friends and family outside of school. School was not made to be my life.
Yeah.
I was not expected to be a straight A student. I was expected to go to school, do the best I could, and get out and have life outside of it. And that was what was expected of me by both my mom and my grandparents.
Was that family, church, Girl
I didn't have church.
Scouts, YMCA? What are we talking about
it's
here?
like, like I did rodeo for years. Like I had friends who were like in that kind of sphere of it. I also, I used to do harness shows
You
for
ride
horses.
girls?
I do. I'm not good at it.
That's
But
hard. That's harder than
know,
hell.
But it's one of those, it's like, it's anything from even stuff that's kind of slightly attached to school, like 4-H. 4-H is one of the best things on the planet, in my personal opinion. My high school also had the what was it, the farmers thing, the like federal farmers
FFA.
Yeah, them. So we had them, but
Future
I
Farmers
also
of America.
like I also have family in a lot of different parts of the country. So like in the summertime, I'd go visit other family members, and I've also moved a lot in my life. So I don't put a lot of credence in school, and I think that's the biggest thing that kids need to be taught. It's lovely if you have your friends from elementary, middle school, and high school when you get older. That's wonderful. But that doesn't mean they're going to be your friends for the rest of your life, and you need to understand how to make friends outside of it.
So be well-rounded and have a life that isn't 100% contingent on the high school experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get kids into D&D, take them to the local game store, let them start
Whatever
playing
it is.
D&D and stuff.
But just don't let high school become your end all and be all. And then maybe the bullying, you can put it in perspective a little more easily. That seemed like is that a fair restatement of what you said?
Yeah, but it also gives them a safe place to talk to someone else who may help convince them to talk to their parents to get the help they need. Because that's sometimes all it takes is, because I've been that friend where I'm like, you need to tell your mom. Please do, or I will do it. Because I threatened one of my friends once. I was like, if you don't tell him, I'm giving you 72 hours. If you don't tell him, I will. We're still friends, so that should tell you something. But it's like they need to have a place that they think that they can go to say something, because I hate to say it for parents, but you're not always going to be the safe space, because they don't know how you're going to react, because they've been told by friends or seen TV shows or movies where parents blow up, and then they think that's how you're going to be, and then it's not how you are.
Humans are social animals, and part of raising kids is there's going to be a point where the parents are not their whole world, and there's things that the parents can't really do. They can't save the kids from everything, which is why I sort of raised the question. But speaking of safety and kids and stuff, you like the CDC, right? That's your tax dollars being well spent, Serenity?
Woo!
Okay, so I thought we might take a look at.
They're hot.
So they're trying to help people be safer when swimming, and there's the whole talk about like water parks and recreational safety. So there's a series of posters that they've made up.
Fecal matter.
That are supposed to, help people stay safe in the water. There's a lot of stuff about kids apparently crapping themselves in the pool. I'm not entirely sure why this
that happens quite a lot. That happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
Sadly, but it does.
Because it seems to me that this is not good. This one in particular strikes me as being just plain wrong. Don't leave your mark at the pool this summer.
Is that a furry with a tail?
Yeah, probably.
That's probably what that is.
Let's see. Are there any others? Yeah. So, more advice from the CDC: diarrhea and swimming don't mix. If you wouldn't do this, then why would you do this? Well, that's a good point, CDC. Thanks for helping with all the obvious things, like don't do that. Let's see. There's this one that I really particularly like.
We also have marks on like electric boxes to not put your bare hand in it. So people are stupid.
So this one I love. What's in your cannonball? Pool chemicals kill most germs within minutes, but some live for days. So hair, 10 million microbes. Spit, 8 million microbes in a single drop. Hands, 5 million microbes. Poop, 140 billion microbes. Be afraid, be very afraid. Skin products, sweat, pee, all the things that are in the pool.
All the things that are on from a microbiological standpoint, there are a lot of things on that chart. Some of them are fairly serious. If you touch it, you need to cleanse that affected thing. If you touch a bunch of poo, you're going to get a bunch of bowel flora on your hand. you got to do something about it immediately. If you touch your hair, you're not going to get anywhere near the number or seriousness of the types of pathogens. Hair is very mixed kind of environment. It has a lot of different variety of bacteria up there and other kinds of organisms. And the gut bacteria tend to be one of a few types, really. And they tend to be very concentrated and very virulent and very good at competing with aerobic bacteria. So, yeah.
I agree with you, Skep. Obviously, people should know, touch poo. Oh my God, it's dirty. You shouldn't do that and you should clean up. That's kind of like, to me, it just seems like, common sense. I know that's kind of a loaded phrase these days, but these posters are reminiscent to me of certain posters I saw not too long ago from countries like Germany and France and Sweden. You shouldn't, how can I put this? I love grape soda. You shouldn't force grape soda on people. Women are people. Just like public little posters like this, same kind of, like friendly, bright art styles telling certain people that women are people.
Helpful infographics.
Yeah, it's just... Please don't have your sexual emergency in our pool.
I have a Swedish government thing somewhere. It's a booklet on immigrant sexuality. It is probably not going to show up on this show ever.
No.
But be that as it may.
Oh, I know what you must.
I know what you're talking about.
So
yeah, we both do.
I wish I didn't. But
being of things getting slammed into, Space Rock slams into moon explosion scene from Japan. Let's see. Well, we can get rid of Frosted Glasses comment.
Yeah, go away,
okay. And let's see. Let's kill the sound because we do not need the sound. So
bottom left.
Look at the bottom left corner. Bing.
Yeah. Ta-da!
Now, to be fair, if I was looking at the moon through one of my telescopes and I saw something like that happen, I would be very, very excited.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, wow, I was just happened to be looking at the moon when something crashed into it. And I would think that I was like such a lucky boy because I saw this thing.
What happened was, telescopes around there are telescopes that do nothing but look at the moon. And those telescopes went, something happened that doesn't normally happen. And, that was reported, I'll bet, almost instantly.
Yeah.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
On that angle, just for some reason, it looks like a photo of a macaron. Kanagawa Prefecture.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this, and people were making kind of a big deal out of this. But let me
spaceport coming to life.
Let me tell you a little bit about. Back in the 90s, there was a comet that actually broke up into a bunch of pieces and slammed into Jupiter. Now, I had the privilege of actually being in a large room full of people watching it as close to live as you could possibly watch this thing. And people were looking forward to, the first collision happening. And oh my God, the cheer when that first image came through. It's sort of like the difference between watching Star Wars, the very first, the only one that really counts, the very first one that was put out by yourself on VHS versus being in a theater full of like screaming fans and stuff. Yeah. So let's just say that my benchmark for being excited about things crashing into other things in space is fairly high. Yes. Because Shoemaker Levy 9, this comet that crashed, let's just kill the sound here. This comet that basically crashed into Jupiter left scars on Jupiter that were larger than the Earth itself. This was the biggest explosion, outside of like a supernova that we've ever seen as human beings, this thing that happened. And if it happened on Earth, it would be double plus ungood. It would not be a good thing at all.
No, that could be extinction.
Yeah, so essentially the gravity
If it were the size of Earth, I think it would be an extinction.
Yeah.
It would definitely give us school bullying would be the least of our problems. Let's put it that way.
As it should be.
Well, the Tunguska event was probably just a fragment of a comet, kind of like this too, and but that was nothing compared to what happened here with Jupiter. So this thing happened. Now you can't really see that much. So, gosh, which one was it? Galileo was on the way to Jupiter when this happened. Now it wasn't at Jupiter, but was on the way. So some of the best pictures we got either came from the Space Telescope or from the Galileo probe en route to this thing. And it was pretty amazing because we had all these images later of these scars and just how fast they sort of healed up on the surface of the planet. I mean, we learned a fair amount about that because essentially something just mixed all the stuff up that was there. This is a visualization. This sort of shows what happens a little bit more clearly. Sorry, I can't make this too much bigger. Let's just do that. Can you see it clearly enough? Oh, we should probably go full screen.
Yeah.
So you can see in the bottom right corner all the fragments of the comet after it had been basically torn apart. And they just, over the course of a few days, just slammed into Jupiter, and every single one of these was like the, more than the Tsar bomb going off. This is like an amazing thing.
Everyone was actually the average size was about like 100 million, so about like two Tsar bombs.
Yeah,
each one. That's the Tsar bomb was the biggest thermonuclear device that's ever been exploded in the atmosphere.
Okay,
Earth.
they already verified the Tunguska event was an airburst. Well, we know it's an airburst, but whether it was a meteor or a comet fragment, I think it was more of an icy body based on the debris. We don't really see a lot of nickel iron stuff interacting with the soil in Tunguska. So if it's verified, I did not get that memo.
I remember it sounded like, it didn't sound like one.
Yeah. So there was a video that Undoomed put out where he was talking about Jupiter. And one of the big things that people like to say about Jupiter is that it's sort of protecting us. It's like the linebacker that protects Earth from all the crap that's coming in from the outer solar system.
I remember hearing that theory,
Yeah. Well, that theory doesn't really hold up to examination. So there was a study in 2016 where they basically did a bunch of simulations, because I think in a previous episode I talked about these things called centaurs, which were icy bodies that existed between Jupiter and Neptune. Okay, and there aren't a ton of them because Jupiter does a really good job of eventually clearing those things out, but there's always new ones coming in from the Kuiper Belt further out, so they sort of get drawn in. Because remember, there's not one large body there, there's actually four. Between Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter, that's a lot of mass.
Yeah,
that's a lot of stuff that's going on. So this 2016 study is actually pretty interesting, but I found one that's a bit, no, that's not the right one. This one, okay. It's a little bit newer. This is a paper from 2002 from the Astrophysical Journal, The Transformation of Centaurs into Jupiter Family Comets. So what they actually did was they modeled what's a six-body problem. So, you've got four gas giants, and you've got
that should be easy to solve.
Yeah. So going forward to the results overall, so they had test particles in the simulation that they put together. So out of 22,625 test particles, 8% basically didn't go anywhere. 2% of them hit Jupiter, 1% hit Saturn, 2% of them evolved into basically short period comets near the sun. 10% basically got kicked out past Neptune. But they found that 12% entered the asteroid belt. Essentially, Jupiter is just mixing stuff up all the time, but a bunch of these things get drawn into the inner solar system. So Jupiter, if anything, may be blocking a few hits, but he's also like grabbing a few and saying, That's okay. You just head on down to Earth and cause some havoc.
He makes as much trouble as he stops, in my opinion.
He makes as much trouble as he stops, but the good thing about that is in the early universe, you know those things called the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that water probably was flung at us from Jupiter, by Jupiter pulling icy bodies from the outer solar system at us.
True.
Hitting us and then melting because of our proximity.
We would just be a big ball of rock with no oceans if it wasn't for Jupiter in all likelihood.
Yeah.
Which would mean no life and no double down.
We'd be in the moon.
I like what Cannibalistic Wizard said.
What did he say? Okay. Which thing?
The one right above Frosted Glass.
This one.
Yep.
It's community service of the best kind. Exactly.
Good Jupiter.
Yeah.
Good little whore.
You draw the short straw. If you see any kids that look disgruntled, do them a solid. Take one for the team.
Consider that the gravity effect on the celestial objects doesn't necessarily have to mean the celestial object has to intercept them, but because of the different pulls, it can redirect things harmlessly away from the center. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of things happen, but the Jupiter comets are basically comets that sort of their furthest point from the sun is near Jupiter, and their nearest point could be, very near the sun, which puts them in Earth is kind of between those two things. So the fact that Jupiter does create a not insignificant number of these comets is a big deal. And the way in which they actually create these comets, this paper, I put the link here, goes into excruciating detail talking about all of the different ways that the gravity of Jupiter can cause this sort of thing to happen. But I think it's cool. I mean, this is a good use for computers. I mean, I know Jar Jar Binks was, cutting edge technology, but I'd much rather use those cycles for something like this.
I'm with you, Harry.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Why not both? Exactly.
This body problem, easy to solve.
Yeah, it's actually fine.
It'll be fine.
So talking a little bit about California, there's a new bill that's being put forward. What they're talking about doing, and try to hold your mirth for a bit here, Skep, is they want to make it easier for builders to convert commercial office spaces into housing.
Wait, what?
Yeah, because that's an easy thing to do. If you think about like an apartment building, you've got sort of like the wet wall and all of the services that go through to do the ventilation and stuff, and that's totally different than what you would do.
Got to replumb everything.
It is a non-trivial sort of thing. So state lawmaker in San Francisco is introducing a bill that would make it faster and easier to convert office buildings into new apartments and condos.
Lawmaker.
And provide money to jumpstart the process. Of course, somebody's got to get paid off, right?
Yeah, that's what all this is.
From the government.
In slowly recovering urban cores, which parts of the Bay Area would see the most conversions? Downtown San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco job centers that have seen surging office vacancy rates are the most obvious examples. Yeah, so people are working remotely because of COVID, and they just don't want to go back to work. So there's a bunch of office spaces that are empty. That much is true. So
just converted into homes for the indigent and the drug addicts, and let them be your tax base.
We're getting there. With the bill's help, it's not just downtowns that could see more office conversions. Here's the fine print. Property owners throughout the entire state would be able to take advantage of the proposed rules. That means that even low-rise office buildings in suburban Los Gatos or Pleasanton, places that have been resisting building more homes, could be more quickly converted into new housing.
You're going to find some of those
They've been resisting.
Yeah, and it bypasses a lot of the local regulations again. They're just salivating at the chance to essentially set up low-income housing in places that don't want any more housing.
Going to get those privileged people
those
back.
Those privileged suburban people.
Yeah.
I feel like this is when apartment buildings are going to start burning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, whoopsies!
Everybody talks a big game about what they want to do for the homeless, right? Everybody talks a big game. So there's a proposal in Santa Clara, California, essentially build a new project to house these people. A boisterous crowd of Santa Clara residents booed city council members shouted at county officials and exchanged barbs with their neighbors at a recent community meeting outlining a proposed project to shelter the city's unhoused population. The project proposed by Santa Clara County and the nonprofit Life Moves would bring a complex of 80 to 120 housing units with individual bathrooms to county-owned land at the corner of Benton and Lawrence Expressway, according to the project's website. Yeah, this sounds fantastic. And if I lived near here, that just would be the best thing.
There. I would want to live there.
So
you
they're
don't want
saying
favelas, Harry? This is how you get favelas.
They're
Favelas are great.
They're saying that it's going to be a great thing. Says when the government owns the property, you don't have to pay for it to source it from the regular market, says Consuelo Hernandez. Don't care. So if we wanted to buy the same property in the city of Santa Clara, it would cost them $10 million, and that would take money away that we could invest in services. Or conversely, you could sell that property for $10 million and somebody could build a business that creates jobs on it. Just saying.
Yeah, you could always do that.
No, they'll just make chicken sandwiches, and that's why capitalism is evil.
Yeah, but I mean, you do need, if there are people that actually would benefit from something like this, okay, so we need to set up some kind of
low-income housing along with work for the low-income people.
Well, more like a full-on rehab program to actually sort of help people. But why does it have to be in the city limits? You know, until they're actually going, like working in a job where they have to be near transit or something, it could be in cheaper land outside the city. This is prime real estate we're talking about here that they want to turn into 120 low-income housing units.
Just so they can get money from the federal government.
That's the best kind. That's the only way to get property values down.
Yeah.
It
works like a charm.
And it's brutally effective at really just pulling off the premium on properties and really getting it cheap for everybody. It's better for everybody to have less expensive property.
Yeah,
it's like it's like they want to run the really rich people out of California. Like it's just more and more this what stuff feels like.
Well, this is more of the NIMBY thing. This is sort of a lot of these people, I'm sure, think that something should be done, but as soon as it ends up being in their backyard, they don't want any part of it.
No.
Which when it comes to the low income housing, we have a whole 60 plus years of history showing, the neighborhood will be just fine when we put the low income housing people. Oh wait, no, it won't.
Now I know a guy who got into low income housing. He actually, I mean, he's a good dude. He studied to be an electrician, finished all of his courses, got all of his licenses, and then decided he didn't want to be an electrician. Okay, his call, right?
Yeah.
So he ended up becoming a security guard, which means he gets paid nothing.
Yeah.
You know, not enough money to pay Silicon Valley rents. So he was basically living in his car and occasionally checking into like a hotel when he needed a good night's sleep. For months and months and months, and then was on a waiting list for one of these things and got it. And so he was basically paying below market rate to get this low income housing thing because of this thing. Now, I'm very, very conflicted about this. First of all, it's a person I know and like, right? But I have real issue with why did you go to school and throw away a good paying job so that you can live in your car? I mean, yeah, it's your decision to do something like that, but maybe if there weren't so many safety nets, you wouldn't do something as stupid as throwing away an electrician's
it's
training.
Because security guard lets him sit there and play his video games. At least that's the reason why I know people that I know are security guards, because they can just sit there and then occasionally wave people through and take signed waivers instead of getting a real job.
Yeah, or to ride around on the Segway.
You know, stay loaded usually too if you know anything about the security business.
Yeah.
And that's kind of high.
Yeah. Well,
not this guy. True. Yeah, this guy.
No, not this guy. Not this guy. You know what I'm saying.
He's talking about my guys, because those do.
It's a miserable occupation. Being a private security, run a guy.
Well, the whole low income housing thing is if we'd make it easy for people to build housing, you would probably build housing near some kind of transportation outside of the city, and people would pay less money and have a longer commute as the trade-off there. Trying to build a bunch of low-income housing in cities where the market says, no, this is actually worth a lot.
What You're saying
that just doesn't
consumer
work. It's
should-
like rent control. It's like, I guess it's great if you're one of the people that's locked in and haven't had your rent go up forever, but it's not fair to everybody else looking for a house.
Shouldn't the consumer take their guidance from the state
Yeah.
in paying what the state wants them to pay for property the state wants them to buy? Why should a private citizen have the opportunity to choose any piece of real property to buy?
Well, in China, they're actually forcing people to invest in these terrible failed real estate projects.
They have flexibility with that kind of arrangement we don't have, and the Democrats have some solid looking stuff they want to put into play. That I think we could get to. I think we could get to China's level of oppression in 10 years if we did a Manhattan type approach, really getting rid of human rights. Really,
you think we can do it?
Local institutions. We've got it in us. We've got a good core of people. Cory Bush, Swalwell, Newsom.
The people who cover themselves in glory every day.
Yeah, Buttigieg and that nameless, faceless vice president, whatever her name is. That's a deep bench.
I know someone that could help them too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I know someone that could help them too. He has very
he has experience as a butt boy, doesn't he?
Yeah. His name is Justine.
Extensive experience.
Yeah.
A little femboy.
He's half Cuban.
He identifies as an Indian. So
he works hand in hand with China already. He knows the language.
Okay, that comment I was about to make needs to go in private chat. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
But don't worry, he most certainly is going to investigate himself and find himself blameless.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why we have such and I deign to use this word very, very liberally, but we do have a housing crisis up here where the median families can barely afford what they're offering, and it has a lot to do with the fact that we've sold property to foreign investment firms, and what they do is they'll buy up the affordable apartment buildings and turn them into condos for that quick return, or they'll remain and then they'll remain vacant because they're too expensive to rent out.
Yeah,
so it's just a snowball. It's just self-fulfilling.
Peculiarly Chinese strategy. That.
Yeah. Fidel Jr. Exactly.
I was thinking about our outstanding government that we have, and we like Biden. Everybody talks about Biden, but Turtle Man had a little problem too. I guess he fell down and had to be taken to a hospital too. And I was originally going to just talk about how since he's the longest serving senator now, I believe, that maybe it's time for him to retire and stuff. And then I found out that he had polio as a kid. And I'm like, I don't want to pick on polio, man. I mean, I still want him to retire, but him tripping and falling, falling might have something to do with something bad that happened to him as a kid, more than him just being too old to be in office.
Well, this is the first time he's tripped and fell, I believe. Like, he's done this a few times.
Well, post polio really sucks. And I don't want to be a complete jerk.
Yeah, my
Turtle
my
Man
great uncle walked with a limp for his entire life.
Yeah.
And post polio is very sad, but like Turtle Boy needs to go and Fetterman needs to go too.
Yeah, Fetterman and his lovely wife.
What? Wait. What? Why can't we be thinking about Fetterman for as a replacement for Biden as president?
Yeah,
he's younger. He's young. He's freshly elected.
He's as articulate.
Yeah, he's fresh,
I think he's more articulate right now.
and he is more articulate. He's much more focused in, and he's in better health. That's the big key than Biden.
I believe in equality, and as a fellow cripple, I demand to be treated like anybody else. You make fun of me just as much as you would the next person. So, I mean, if Yertle goes to Washington Falls, then have a laugh because he's an evil son of a.
I'm a turtle.
Oh, I'm a turtle.
Turtle. Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
Do any of you guys remember they used to have like these ads for art school in quotes where
Yes,
you know
if
like,
you draw
on
this
a,
turtle or this
like on a
parrot,
matchbook or in the
or
back
a
of a
pirate,
comic book or something.
pirate,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you can draw this, you could make big money in the art world. You know, just draw a picture of Mitch McConnell and send it to 1-800 I'm a turtle.
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I may, because some of the things that I did when I was younger, I like to think of them as hazing. I suppose they might loosely be considered bullying, though.
Yeah,
It's
the same kind of thing. It's not meant to be overtly violent or permanently damaging physically. It's for me, bullying is. Okay, you're making fun of this guy because he's got funny-looking curly hair. Or you're making fun of this guy because they're short, or this person. Like it's ribbing, and it helps you develop that thicker skin. If it crosses that line, I know personally, I was heavily bullied. I normally just let it slide. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't care about you. You're obviously not good people. I'm going to stick with my friends, and like Serenity said, the people outside of school were good help. Until the point where somebody actually just would not leave the violent option off the table, and then I stabbed them in the neck with a pencil, and I got suspended for 2 months.
As one does, yes.
Oh, I left.
Well, I mean, it got to the point where they were starting to get overtly physical, and that's where I drew the line. The ignoring the problem didn't work in this scenario. So referring back to that girl, there's ultimately 2 recourses if these things go untreated and continue to escalate. It's either self-harm or lashing out. And, I lashed out in a violent manner, not
No, I know. Well, you get frustrated and things happen. On the Twitter, I have... maybe it's because I was looking at mugshotties for the show, but they started suggesting to me this channel that's nothing but people in high school and junior high school getting in fights.
Yep.
So it's just videos of kids just beating the hell out of each other in public schools. I still remember, sheltered little Harry hitting 7th grade and going off to junior high school and having never seen anything quite like this before. And I saw these 2 Hispanic girls who were very much worked up into a lather in this altercation where they were aggressively trying to rip each other's hair out, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no. What fresh hell have I fallen into? My life was so fantastic before, and now there's people literally trying to rip each other's hair out. It's like, oh no.
The only thing worse than 2 Latin girls fighting or 2 black girls fighting. That's the only thing worse.
I have to take your word for it. That's just not part of my local color, if you get my drift.
Racist. No, I'm kidding.
No, you're much more in the Latinx area.
Yeah. That's why we have really, really good Mexican food here in Central California.
Do you have Latinx food?
We do. We do.
I love Latinx food.
No,
I always loved it because West Virginia, if you anybody but white, you don't want, it's a little dangerous to come here not because of racism, but because they always try to start shit because they came from a big city, and it's like country people will fuck you up harder than city people ever will. This is not the place you want to do shit.
It depends on the country and the city. Yeah.
And a big part of the problem is the fact that these videos do get posted, they do get a lot of traction, and thus they are monetized. And so there's an incentive to keep doing this stuff and not interfere and just be a bystander and film it and profit from it.
Yeah, there's also a pretty deep-seated sociopathy.
Yeah,
that too. Yeah, I mean, most people would rather be famous than rich.
Yeah, which is weird. I'd rather be rich and
decent. That's the thing that
Me too, Serenity.
I don't want anybody to know my name. I want to have money and just go, oh, darn. Oh,
give me money and leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
you kids get off my lawn.
The young people today would rather be famous than rich, per se.
Well, we don't get to be either because of this. I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it because we've hit the 2-hour mark. So thank you, chat. Thank you very much. Actually, really good comments from chat tonight.
Sorry, get to Marcus Aurelius.
We didn't get to Marcus Aurelius, nor will we this evening. And thank you to my panel. Thank you especially, Skep, for putting together a little thing on the Silicon Valley Bank. You know, it makes it a lot easier for me to host when, you know, people step up and take over pieces of the show for me. Anyway, with that, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.